Jeremiah 51, verse 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Habbakkuk chapter 2 and verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Verse 7. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and a weight that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Verse 8. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. Because of man's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Because thou hast spoiled many nations. That we see me underlining there. This is Isaiah 14 and verse 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. What it means, the dead? These other nations really are dead. So they're being stirred up. Even all the chief ones of the earth, it have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. So back in Jeremiah 51, verse 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. You see on the line there? The nations have drunk of our wine, therefore the nations are mad.
World lasted us. You realize the Russians think we're all faggots? Do you realize most of the Eastern Bloc countries think we're faggots? Because we are! We're an embarrassment to humanity.
Over to you, VJ, because many of us say we're fighting the same fight again and again and again. There was a conversation yesterday, will this fight ever end?
Will this fight ever end? Well, first, Asad, thanks for forcing me to come to Glasgow. When I walk the streets of cities like this, Glasgow was the UK's second most important city. Beautiful buildings, beautiful streets, a gorgeous city. It had Red Clydeside in 1919, the uprising to create a Soviet in Scotland. But it was, crushed, of course. When I see cities like this, I think also about the other side of it. There's a phrase from Walter Benjamin, every monument of civilization is also a monument of barbarism. I think of the famines in Bengal, the jute workers in Bengal sending jute to Dundee through the Glasgow port. I think of human beings from Africa enslaved and brought from Ghana to the New World, and all those prophets getting sucked into cities like London and Glasgow. Between 1765 and 1938, the British Isles stole $45 trillion pounds from India. $45 trillion sterling from India. We never got paid for that. When the British left India, when we threw the British out, our literacy rate was 13%. So much for several hundred years of so-called civilization. Meanwhile, our landscapes were destroyed. You know, coal was foisted on India. You foisted coal on us. You were the ones that came and made us coal dependent. And then you left, and now you dare to condescend to us. When I listen to Boris Johnson, when I listen to people like Joe Biden, when I listen even more to Emmanuel Macron, all I can think of is how condescending you are. You condescended to us 400 years ago. You condescended to us 300 years ago. You condescended to us 200 years ago. You condescended to us 100 years ago. You're condescending to us today. You only know condescension because for you, colonialism isn't something that happened in the past and we defeated you. It's not that. For you, colonialism is a permanent condition. And that permanent condition happens in two ways. There's the permanent condition of the colonial mentality. You want to lecture us. You want to tell us that we are responsible for all the problems because you'll never accept that you're the one principally to blame. You signed the Rio Formula in 1992 on common and differentiated responsibilities. You like the common part. You like the common part. You like to say we're all in this together and so on. We're not in this together. The United States, 4-5% of the world's population, still uses 25% of the world's resources. You outsource production to China and then you say China is the carbon polluter. China's producing your buckets. China's producing your nuts and bolts. China's producing your phones. Try to produce it in your own countries and see your carbon emissions rise. You love lecturing us because you have a colonial mentality. Then there are colonial structures and institutions. You lend us money, and every time you lend us money, which is our money, every time the International Monetary Fund comes to our societies and they tell us, here's the money we are giving you. No, it's our money. You give us our money back as debt, and then you lecture us about how we should live. It's extraordinary. It's not just a colonial mentality. It's the colonial structures and institutions which reproduce themselves year after year after year. And let me tell you something. The climate justice movement, not clued enough on this. The climate justice movement is a movement that says we're worried about our future. What future? What future? Children in the African continent, in Asia, in Latin America, they don't have a future. They don't have a present. They're not worried about the future. They're worried about their present. Your slogan is, we're worried about the future. What future? That's a middle-class bourgeois Western slogan. You got to be worried about now. 2.7 billion people can't eat now. And you're telling people, reduce your consumption. How does this sound to a child who hasn't eaten in days? You got to clue into this, guys. You got to clue into this. Otherwise, this movement will have no legs in the third world. No legs. Later, I'd like to tell you about the International People's Assembly, a network of 200 political organizations that we're setting up, rooted in the global south. We want to tell you what our issues are, but are you willing to listen?
Thank you, Vijay.
The United States can do whatever the hell it wants, and that's official. Way back in 1988, on the 3rd of July, the USS Vincennes, a missile cruiser stationed in the Persian Gulf, accidentally shot down an Iranian airliner and killed 290 civilian passengers. George Bush I, who was at the time on his presidential campaign, was asked to comment on the incident. He said, quite subtly, "I will never apologize for the United States. I don't care what the facts are." I don't care what the facts are. What a perfect maxim for the new American empire. Perhaps a slight variation on the theme would be more apposite. The facts can be whatever we want them to be. When the United States invaded Iraq, a New York Times CBS News survey estimated that 42% of the American public believed that Saddam Hussein was directly responsible for the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And an ABC News poll said that 55% of Americans believed that Saddam Hussein directly supported Al-Qaeda. None of this opinion is based on evidence because there isn't any. All of it is based on insinuation, autosuggestion, and outright lies circulated by the US corporate media, otherwise known as the free press, that hollow pillar on which contemporary American democracy rests. Public support in the US for the war against Iraq was founded on a multi-tiered edifice of falsehood and deceit, coordinated by the US government and faithfully amplified by the corporate media. Apart from the invented links between Iraq and Al-Qaeda, we had the manufactured frenzy about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. George Bush the Lesser went to the extent of saying it would be suicidal for the US not to attack Iraq. We once again witnessed the paranoia that a starved, bombed, besieged country was about to annihilate almighty America. Iraq was only the latest in a succession of countries. Earlier there was Cuba, Nicaragua, Libya, Grenada, Panama. But this time it wasn't just your ordinary brand of friendly neighborhood frenzy. It was frenzy with a purpose. It ushered in an old doctrine in a new bottle, the doctrine of preemptive strike, also known as the United States can do whatever the hell it wants, and that's official.
Sean, you know, I've been saying this, that today the West is trying to chastise the world's largest democracy, India, and sermonizing that this is the stand India should take and that is the stand India should take. And I'd like to tell you, we have taken a stand. We are not going to fight a battle with Russia. That is a Western creation. This is a creation of the West. We are abstaining. We did not cause this war, Sean. We did not cause this war, and we will look out for ourselves. Because don't you for a moment think that we have forgotten history, Sean. I'd like to remind you that the UK and the US moved a joint resolution in the UN Security Council deploring the use of force by India in Goa, Daman and Diu when we were liberating Goa, and it was the USSR at that time that vetoed it. And let me also tell you, I don't forget 1971. The US tried to actively harm my country in 1971, where after Pakistan, launched Operation Chengiz Khan against India. It was the US that rallied with Pakistan and dispatched a 10-ship naval task force, the US task force, from the 7th Fleet of the South Vietnam into the Bay of Bengal, and we still won in Bangladesh. So please, we cannot trust the Americans. We should never completely trust the Americans. Now for the British, because Sean, you're British. I think it's a great country. I love Great Britain. But my question here is very simple. We cannot forget how in 1971, the UK dispatched its aircraft carrier, HMS Eagle, into the Arabian Sea to bolster Pakistan and then retreated after the Russian fleet was spotted. So no, I do not forget my country's history. And you tried to pass resolutions against us in 1971 when the people of Bangladesh were being plundered and raped and murdered. At that point of time, when we were liberating Pakistan, you tried to pass a resolution against us. And while UK and France abstained, Russia vetoed it. So I never forget my country's history. And I truly believe that a great country like India will look out for itself. And I'm completely a believer in the recalibration of the world order. And while I condemn the casualties in Ukraine, I think we are doing a damn good thing, and I'm proud of my country for standing up for its...
So after watching all of that, you see where the scriptures came out at the beginning. All of these other nations, India, I mean, you name it, man. Africa is one video there. I should really try to put down here. Just getting fed up, boy. Biblical prophecy. But Revelation 17:16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All this is metaphoric talk. Eat her flesh and burn her with fire. You meaning America is going to be destroyed. Burn her with fire with the nuclear missiles. For the Most High have put it in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bachar Kodash, and double honor to mighty church, the apostles, the elders, and the bishops of Great Millstone, and shalom to the Yakin worldwide that are sincere and serious in doing the will of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bachar Kodash. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. To you all, shalom.